Hello, everyone, and welcome to Port of Grace in my backyard. Thanks to everyone who responded to both my emails about what we've been providing for you, as well as the options that you prefer going forward in regards to opening up the church. Now, the moment we ask people to choose between options, it means that whatever option we choose will not be a few people's option. I do apologize for the few of you that wanted the indoor option, but the majority was in favor of the outdoor option. Still, after working through this, we really feel that the option that we're suggesting is the best option considering our church's building, the rules that we have received, and the times that we find ourselves in. We realize we will not agree, and so we ask you for much grace and love as we go forward. Also, we want to say from the beginning that should you choose not to attend at this time or for a while, we understand these are different times and there are a lot of aspects that go into making the choice as to whether to attend a public gathering in this moment. We love you, and you will not be judged for choosing not to attend if that's the case. Let me explain why we're not doing the indoor option at this time. Let me make clear, according to the rules and even the new rules that came out even today, what coming back to the building would entail. I do this so that we realize we'd come back to something very, very different. For example, if we were reopening the building this Sunday, this would be what you would expect as you came. As you all heard, only 30% of capacity would attend. Downstairs, that's between 25 to 30 people, depending on how many singles we have. Upstairs, we have room for about 15 to 19 people, again, depending on who came. For this reason, we'd either have to register previously or simply decide a rotation system for who would come on a given week. People would have to be screened in the same way as when you go to a doctor's office. Questions would be put up on the website for self-screening. At the entrance, you might be asked if you had answered those questions. It could be argued that this doesn't happen when you go to the mall, and yes, but we'll be meeting in a small, confined, and non-ventilated room, sitting together for an hour. That's the other thing. Our service would be reduced to an hour. There would be no nursery or any children's ministry, and any children would have to stay with the parents at all times, no walking around, etc. That's part of the rules come down from the government. Bathroom use would be for emergency use only, and you get to decide what's an emergency, and parents would have to accompany the children to the bathroom. We were open to singing, but if so, masks would be mandatory, especially in our space. Today's rules ask that singing would be suspended. Social distancing, 2 meters at all times, would have to be maintained, though many of us would be tempted to break that rule. However, in that setting, we would absolutely not, as we have people who work in the health profession, are caregivers to those with higher risk. Though at this point, we decided that we would not turn anyone away. We'd leave the decision to the individual. Still, the rule suggests that some people might consider not attending at this point. People in a high-risk demographic in terms of age, people with underlying health conditions, especially in terms of breathing and lungs, those living or working with the more vulnerable, those not yet comfortable meeting in a larger group. One of the other reasons that we didn't open last weekend was to hear from the few UB churches that did and learn from their expertise. The pastor at Grace says, it felt more like I was welcoming people into a hazard waste site than to a worship service. Now, he still said I would still do it anyways, but the reality is that things have changed. So, I don't say all that to make a case for the choice that we've made. I say all that so we'll have a clear picture that opening up the church does not mean in any way getting back to normal. On the contrary, as quite a few of you have said, it seems like a lot of work to have less than we even have now. We realize, though, for those of you who have been alone for a long time, anything feels better than alone. We are also looking at how we can help with changing that going forward. So, what are we going to do? We are hoping to do outdoor services starting July 4th at Luke and Jan Young's. The rule of 30% allows us to all meet as long as we maintain social distance, that is 2 meters apart at all times, except for families. We must do this. This is not an option, especially in protection of those considered to be in high-risk demographic, as well as those who work within the health field. This is regardless of whether people give you permission or not. I know that we might do something different in our homes, but in that scenario, we must obey this rule. If we choose not to, it will mean not being able to go forward with this. However, besides this, because we are outside, we can do much more. We'll still have to take attendance and probably take a photo of the group to keep records for contact tracing. We'll still ask you to screen yourself and ask if you have. We'll still ask you that if you're not feeling well, please don't come. There will still be no children's ministries, and children must stay with the parents. Bring whatever you need for them, but it's important that your kids stay with you. Our services will still be 1 hour long, and though the bathroom is available, we're asking everyone to go before they come and use it only in the case of an emergency, and you get to decide what the emergency is. Also, if your child needs to go to the bathroom, you have to accompany them to the bathroom. However, we can sing, we don't have to use masks, and we can get together as a church, as a whole church. Still, if you choose not to come, we respect you and we love you and will in no way judge you. Let me close with this. The world has changed. Church has changed for the near future. We will be learning from other churches and evaluating as we go forward. We might all have all kinds of opinions and ideas that we could allow to divide us. Much grace and love will be needed during this time. We welcome your opinions and ideas, but please give us mercy as we go forward. On weeks that the weather doesn't allow, we will cancel the outdoor services and do what we're doing presently. Hopefully, we will also be able to coordinate people meeting together in smaller groups during that time, depending on what your home allows. You'll be contacted about this soon. This is what we call growing smaller. You've heard me say that God has given us an opportunity to learn, especially what it means to be the church at this time. It's clear that though we've said it many, many times, the church building is not the church, we are, so we have an opportunity to put this into practice and have been doing so already. I want to say as well, and this is something that I was reminded of this week, many of you have continued to work during this whole experience. I apologize if in my communication I ever made you feel like this time was only for those who were home to be able to do more Bible studies and grow and spend time with God. I thank God for those of you who continue to work and especially serve in places where you serve those in greatest need. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for being Christ's hands. Thank you for being Christ's mouth and feet to them. You are an example to the rest of us of what it means to serve in a time like this. I also realize that you've had to figure out how to do church, and I thank God for how many of you continue to grow and surrender to God during this time. Lastly, the spiritual discernment team was tasked or has been tasked during this time with praying, discussing, and thinking through the issues facing the church in this time to figure out how we can move forward and be the church for such a time as this. We look forward with hope to a future that, though in the near term will be different, our God is the same. He is unchanging, and He can lead us and will lead us through this time. But I ask you in your grace to not just be open, but embrace, or in the very least, just try the changes that will come. Please know we don't secretly have a plan for all that we want or things that we are going to implement. But we do want to seek God and do what is best for His people according to His ways. May God bless you, strengthen you, and keep you as we together keep seeking His will. This is Pastor Ed on behalf of the leadership team as well as the spiritual discernment team. Have a great week.